What happens when you focus on your breath? You may think you are calming your mind, but the breath is calling you home. The breath has always been here, waiting in the quiet space between thoughts. It moves through you without asking, faithful as light returning at dawn. Each inhale is the universe entering your body, each exhale, your return to the whole. The breath is the bridge between form and the formless, between the visible and the unseen current that keeps you alive. It does not belong to you. It moves through everything that breathes. When you turn your attention to it, you are not learning something new. You are remembering what has always been true. That life is breathing through you, and every breath is a doorway back to the sacred rhythm of being. We spend so much of life trying to hold on, to time, to people, to the next breath itself. Yet the breath cannot be held. It teaches impermanence through its rhythm and surrender through its release. You cannot capture a breath and keep it. You can only receive and let go again and again. In that endless cycle of giving and returning, the truth of all existence is revealed. Everything changes, and yet nothing is lost. When you truly listen, the breath begins to sound like a voice, soft, ancient, and kind. It whispers, "You belong. You are part of this rhythm." To breathe consciously is to let go of the illusion of control, to realize that peace was never missing. It was hidden in the simplicity of being alive. You are not practicing breathing. You are practicing remembrance. The Buddha once said, "When breathing in, know that you are breathing in. When breathing out, know that you are breathing out." This simple knowing is the doorway to presence. It requires no philosophy, no doctrine, only awareness. In that awareness, the breather and the breath are not two. They rise and fall together as one movement of life. At first, it may feel as though you are doing the breathing, but if you listen deeply, you will notice that breathing is happening by itself. It does not need your effort, only your permission to be noticed. When you stop trying to breathe, you discover that you are being breathed. The breath and life are one motion, a single dance of existence moving through countless forms. This is the ancient invitation to come home again and again to the living awareness that has never left you. In the beginning, when you focus on the breath, there is still someone doing it, a mind that observes, a self that tries to pay attention. This is attention, deliberate, effortful, guided by a sense of control. It has direction, and it often carries subtle tension, the wish to do it right. But as the mind begins to settle, something beautiful happens. The sharpness of attention softens into spaciousness. The effort to focus begins to dissolve, and what remains is awareness. Open, receptive, without a center. Attention is like a beam of light trying to find the object. Awareness is the sky itself, vast, allowing everything to appear and pass through. In awareness, there is no observer, only the quiet unfolding of life happening by itself. And in that unfolding, you are no longer the one breathing. You are the breath becoming aware of itself. Science can describe this shift. When you practice mindful breathing, the prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain responsible for conscious regulation, becomes active. Meanwhile, the amygdala, which governs fear and reactivity, begins to quiet down. The body receives a clear message. I am safe. Safety is the first door to stillness. When the nervous system feels safe, the mind no longer needs to defend, fix, or escape. The breath becomes slower, the heart rate softens, and energy that was scattered through worry begins to gather inward. This physiological harmony is not the goal. It is the ground where presence can bloom. Because only a relaxed body can host an awake mind. As the Buddha taught, mindfulness is to be clearly aware in every action without forgetting yourself. In this calm awareness, the distinction between body, mind, and breath slowly fades into one living field of knowing. Awareness is not something you create. It is something you return to. When attention relaxes, awareness reveals itself like a lake becoming still after the wind. It is not focused on a point. It simply knows the whole movement of life. At this stage, the observer, that subtle I watching the breath, begins to dissolve. There is no longer a watcher and the watched. Breathing happens, and it is known, effortlessly. In awareness, the body breathes, the air moves, and the knowing of it all happens in the same instant, inseparable. This is what the Buddha called clear comprehension, sampajanya, a luminous knowing that does not interfere, does not judge, and does not divide. When you rest here, presence is no longer something you try to find. It is the natural fragrance of being when nothing is forced and nothing is missing. Attention belongs to the world of effort. Awareness belongs to the world of surrender. Attention says, I am doing. Awareness whispers, it is happening. When you focus too tightly, you may feel strain, a subtle contraction behind the eyes or in the chest. But when you rest as awareness, the same breath becomes soft, expansive, and alive. This is not laziness. It is intimacy. Because only when you stop interfering can you feel the breath from within, not as air moving in and out, but as energy rising and falling through the whole body. In that openness, the breath teaches you how to live. Take in fully, release completely, trust the flow. Each inhale affirms, life enters. Each exhale releases, life continues. And somewhere between the two, you awaken to the quiet knowing, I am not separate from this rhythm. Presence begins the moment you stop trying to perfect the breath. When the mind no longer seeks to change it, the breath reveals its natural intelligence, always balancing, always adjusting, without your control. In that recognition, you see that awareness is not a function of doing, but a return to being. This is why the Buddha spoke of mindfulness not as a technique, but as a way of remembering the wholeness of life. When mindfulness is established, one abides observing the body in the body, diligent, clearly aware, and free from grasping. Here, nothing needs to be improved. The breath, the body, the moment, all are enough. Attention works through effort. Awareness unfolds through trust. And in that trust, you discover the gentle secret of the breath. It was never waiting for you to control it, only to notice that it has been guiding you all along. Between inhale and exhale, there is a stillness. It is not the end of breath, but the beginning of being. Most people never notice this pause. The mind is too quick to move to the next moment, too eager to catch the next breath, too restless to feel what exists between them. But when awareness deepens, the pause becomes visible, a quiet doorway between two worlds. In that silence, the breath is neither coming nor going. Life seems to hold itself still, and yet that stillness is not empty. It is full, vibrant, alive, overflowing with invisible life. This is the sacred interval where time loosens its grip, where the sense of me briefly dissolves. No one is breathing here. Breath breathes itself. And in that simplicity, you begin to taste what the ancients called presence, the state of being utterly here, before thought, before identity, before time. Meditation begins in this stillness. When the mind no longer rides the wave of inhale or exhale, it naturally falls into the ocean between them. There, the current of thought slows, and something beyond thinking begins to shimmer. In the silence between two breaths, awareness shines by its own light. It is not something you create. It is what remains when every effort fades. The Buddha described this in the Satipatthana Sutta. Diligent, clearly aware and mindful, one observes the body in the body, subduing craving and distress in the world. That phrase, clearly aware, is sampajanya, the luminous knowing that watches without grasping. It does not analyze, it simply knows. This clarity is not learned. It awakens. When the breath pauses, it is as if the universe pauses with it. And in that shared stillness, you realize that awareness was never apart from life. It is life, awake to itself. To the untrained mind, the pause may feel like emptiness, as if nothing is happening. But emptiness, in truth, is the womb of everything. It is not absence, but potential. The silence that gives birth to sound, the gap that allows movement to exist. When awareness rests there, it meets a presence so vast, the word I cannot enter. There is only knowing, not someone who knows, but pure knowing itself, luminous and still. Modern science touches this mystery too. When the brain shifts into theta rhythm, the slow waves between waking and dreaming, the self-referential network, the part that keeps saying, "This is me," temporarily quiets down, and for a moment, you experience reality without a narrator. The boundaries of the body soften, the mind expands beyond thought. What remains is intimacy with existence, the sense that you are breathing with the same rhythm as the stars. At the energetic level, this pause between breaths is the meeting point of birth and death. Each inhale begins life anew, each exhale releases what no longer serves, and between them, the still point, is the silent witness to both arising and dissolving. When you touch that point, you are not merely observing, you are merging with the pulse of creation itself. This is why mystics across traditions speak of hearing the breath of the universe. It is not poetic exaggeration, it is direct perception. The stillness hums, not as sound, but as presence vibrating through every atom. The Buddha called this tathata, suchness, seeing things exactly as they are, beyond birth and death, beyond becoming. In this suchness, even breath becomes a teacher, revealing that the essence of life is not motion, but the awareness in which motion appears. The pause is not absence. It is the silence where all creation breathes. Every sound, every thought, every heartbeat arises from this quiet field and returns to it again. It is the canvas on which life paints itself, constantly changing, yet untouched by the colors of time. When you enter this stillness consciously, you begin to sense the rhythm of all beings breathing together. The trees, the oceans, the galaxies, they all exhale and inhale within the same vast presence. This realization softens the heart. Because when you feel that the universe is breathing with you, loneliness disappears. There is no separate you trying to survive. There is only life, flowing as countless forms, resting in the same silence between breaths. And in that silence, you recognize the essence of all spiritual practice. To remember the stillness that never began and never ends. Presence is not something to be achieved. It is not a goal waiting at the end of effort. It is what you are, revealed the moment you stop seeking. When you fall into the stillness between breaths, you meet the timeless dimension of yourself. The body continues breathing, but you are no longer doing it. The mind continues thinking, but you are no longer trapped inside it. Here, doing dissolves into being. The inhale, the exhale, the pause, they are not three. They are one living movement. To rest here is to taste freedom, not the freedom of choice or control, but the freedom of suchness, everything exactly as it is, needing nothing added, nothing removed. You realize at last, presence is not silence. Presence is the awareness of silence that holds all sound, all breath, all life, eternal, luminous, and complete. You do not breathe, breathing happens. It is the most intimate proof that life does not belong to you. The breath comes uninvited and leaves unannounced. You cannot decide when it will enter, nor can you command it to stay. Every inhale arrives as a gift, every exhale as surrender. And between them, you are reminded, you were never the one in control. The Buddha said in the Samyutta Nikaya, what is impermanent is suffering. What is suffering is not self. Breath is impermanent, appearing and disappearing moment by moment. To claim it as mine is to invite suffering, because what comes and goes cannot belong to anyone. When this is seen clearly, the sense of I am the doer begins to dissolve. You discover a gentler truth, that life is not being lived by you. It is living through you. To recognize this is liberation, because the root of fear is control, the mind's desperate attempt to hold what cannot be held. The moment you release control, the body relaxes, and the breath returns to its own sacred intelligence. You realize, even when you forget to breathe, something within you keeps going, steady, silent, unbroken. That something is not a person, it is the very movement of existence. When the idea of I am breathing falls away, a vast stillness opens. Awareness remains, but without the weight of identity. Presence is not the effort of the ego. It is life clearly seen when the ego has gone quiet. The breath is no longer a practice to perfect. It becomes a mirror reflecting the truth. There was never anyone doing the breathing. In that reflection, you meet the mystery of anatta, the selfless nature of all things. When the breath breathes itself, awareness witnesses, and all effort dissolves. There is no boundary between what is breathing and what is being breathed. The in-breath rises, the out-breath fades, and consciousness simply watches the dance. In this quiet witnessing, the illusion of separation loosens. The breather and the breath are one movement, just as the wave and the ocean are never truly apart. To say, I am breathing, is like a wave saying, I am moving myself. No, it is the ocean moving through every wave. This insight changes everything. Because once you feel that life is moving through you, not as an idea, but as direct experience, the weight of responsibility lifts. The body still acts. The mind still thinks. But the sense of ownership is gone. What remains is effortless alignment. The breath finds its natural rhythm, and you find your place in the rhythm of the universe. At the energetic level, when the mind stops claiming the breath as mine, your entire field begins to expand. The body's electromagnetic coherence increases, aligning with the Earth's natural resonance, what scientists call the Schumann frequency, around 7.83 Hertz, the same rhythm as calm human consciousness. In that harmony, you feel lighter, as though the borders of your body begin to blur. You sense life not just within you, but around you, vibrating in every sound, every silence. This is why ancient masters described the awakened one as limitless, like the sky. Because in truth, you are no longer confined to skin and bone. You are the field in which breathing, sensing, and knowing all occur. Here, presence is not personal, it is cosmic. And as the breath flows in tune with the greater pulse of existence, you begin to feel the simplest, most profound truth. I and the world are not two. This is the gateway to what the Buddha called shunyata, emptiness. But emptiness is not void, it is fullness without boundary. It is the space in which all forms arise and dissolve, untouched and luminous. The Heart Sutra expresses it beautifully. Form is emptiness. Emptiness is form. The breath is form, the visible, tangible rhythm of life. Awareness is emptiness, the unseen space that allows it to be. When form and emptiness are seen as one, the duality between body and consciousness collapses. Then, prajna, the wisdom of clear seeing, awakens, not as philosophy, but as direct experience, the recognition that everything is both wave and ocean, both breath and stillness, both movement and silence. When you breathe in, emptiness takes shape as life. When you breathe out, life dissolves back into emptiness. It has always been this simple, only now you can see it. Non-self does not mean nothing exists. It means nothing exists independently. Everything is breathing everything else. Trees exhale for us. We exhale for the trees. The clouds, the rivers, the soil, all part of the same exchange of being. In this seeing, gratitude becomes spontaneous. Fear disappears, because who is left to protect? Life protects itself through every form. You no longer meditate to become free. You are free because the one who sought freedom is gone. The breath continues, but there is no breather to claim it. There is only this sacred movement, form appearing, emptiness shining, awareness witnessing, love expanding. To live from this is to embody prajna, clear, compassionate, unshakable. You walk lightly, speak softly, and breathe as the universe breathes, not apart, not above, but as one infinite motion of being. Presence is not a state of calm, it is the clear knowing behind all states. Calm comes and goes, emotions rise and fade, even the most serene meditation can be disturbed, but presence remains, silent, unwavering, unbothered. It is not an emotion to maintain, nor a mood to protect. It is the space in which every mood appears and disappears. It does not belong to pleasure or pain, to happiness or sadness. It simply is. To call it awareness is already too limited, because awareness still implies someone being aware. Presence is knowing without a knower, pure, self-luminous, formless. When the waves of thought subside, what is left is not emptiness, but the radiant clarity of being that has been here all along. It is the background of every experience, the silent witness that does not change even as the content of life endlessly transforms. The Buddha called this wisdom prajna paramita, the perfection of insight that sees all phenomena as nothing to attain. Because there is nothing to attain, the bodhisattva, abiding in prajna paramita, has no obstruction in the mind. This is the essence of presence, a mind without obstruction. It is not clouded by judgments, not bound by preferences, not chasing or resisting what appears. When the mind is free from obstruction, life flows through effortlessly. The breath moves on its own, thoughts arise and fall like clouds, and everything is exactly as it is. This is not indifference, it is intimacy. Presence feels every movement of life, yet clings to nothing. It is both completely engaged and completely free. To abide in this way is to live as the Buddha taught, seeing the impermanent as impermanent, the selfless as selfless, and resting in the boundless clarity of knowing. Presence is not found through effort. It is revealed through stillness. When the breath slows and awareness deepens, the body, heart, and mind begin to synchronize. Science calls this coherence. The heartbeat, the breath, and the brain waves align into a single rhythm of harmony. In that coherence, the nervous system shifts from survival to openness. The electromagnetic field of the heart expands, resonating with the field of the earth itself. This is not metaphor, it is measurable. But beyond measurement, something subtler happens. The human being begins to shine, not with visible light, but with a quality of softness, radiance, and ease. When presence is embodied, there is no contraction left in the system. Energy flows freely. Love flows naturally. To be present is to become transparent. Nothing blocks the flow of life. You do not radiate energy by doing anything. You radiate because resistance has ceased. At the deepest level, presence is not you being aware. It is awareness itself becoming conscious of its own existence. The sense of a me observing fades, and what remains is knowing itself, the timeless intelligence that sees without eyes, hears without ears, moves without form. This is the direct realization of anatta, the teaching of non-self. Awareness has no boundary, no gender, no age, no past or future. It is the pure seeing that has always been present, even before you called yourself I. In this, the personal dissolves into the universal. Your breath, your thoughts, your heartbeat are no longer yours. They are life expressing itself as you. To live from this recognition is to walk the earth as silence in motion. You act, but there is no actor. You speak, but there is no speaker. There is only presence flowing through the shape of a human being. In meditation, this recognition arises naturally. When breath and awareness merge, the line between anapanasati and prajna disappears. Anapanasati, the mindfulness of breathing, returns you to the present moment. Prajna, the wisdom of emptiness, reveals that this moment has no separate self. The meeting of the two is the flowering of liberation. Breath brings you home. Wisdom shows there was never a distance to travel. When awareness fully rests in the breath, there is no division between experience and experiencer. The one who observes and the thing observed are made of the same light. This is the end of duality, not because you destroyed it, but because you see that it never truly existed. Presence, then, is not a practice but a remembrance, the rediscovery of what has never left. The breath does not lead you to presence, it unveils that you are presence itself. Presence transcends time. It does not begin with birth or end with death. It was here before your first breath, and it will remain after your last exhale. It is unborn, undying, the unconditioned the Buddha spoke of. Thoughts appear within it. Sensations ripple through it, but nothing can stain it. In Zen, they call it your original face before you were born. In the language of prajna, it is tathata, suchness, the way things are before the mind divides them. Presence is not an achievement, but a recognition, a flash of direct seeing where the search collapses. You realize you have never left this moment. All seeking was a dream within presence. When this truth settles, peace is not something you maintain. It is what you are. You become transparent to life, like clear water carrying reflections without holding them. To live from presence is to live as freedom itself. You still feel, you still act, but nothing sticks. Joy flows, sorrow flows. Each emotion rises and falls like breath across the open sky of awareness. Presence is love without object, intelligence without center, clarity without boundary. This is the birth of prajna, the awakened wisdom that sees through illusion without rejecting the world. It moves with compassion because it recognizes itself in every being, in every breath. In this light, every inhale is a blessing, every exhale, a prayer. Life no longer feels like something to manage. It feels like music playing through you. You are the note and the silence between notes, the wave and the ocean, the breath and the space it moves through. Presence does not belong to you. You belong to presence. And that belonging is the ultimate freedom. If presence is already here, how do we live from it? Presence was never meant to pull us away from life. It is not a refuge from noise, but the quiet center within the noise. It is not about escaping the world. It is about seeing the world through clarity. The breath is the bridge. It travels with you everywhere. When you speak, when you walk, when you listen to your child, when you sit in silence or stand in traffic. To breathe consciously is to let life move through you without resistance. It is to allow every moment to arise and pass without tightening against it. Presence does not isolate, it connects. When you breathe with awareness, you realize that every act, eating, listening, smiling, can be an expression of meditation. In Anapanasati Sutta, the Buddha said, mindfully breathing in and out, one contemplates the arising and passing of body and mind. To see this clearly is to live with lightness among change. When you recognize that both body and mind are part of the same flow of impermanence, you stop demanding permanence from them. You no longer force your thoughts to be pure or your emotions to be peaceful. You simply watch the dance, the inhale of birth, the exhale of release. Life keeps changing, but suffering ends when you stop insisting it shouldn't. When you see the arising and fading of all things with equanimity, your breath becomes wisdom in motion. It teaches you that peace does not depend on stillness, but on acceptance, on saying yes to each moment as it comes. When you are present, your words carry the vibration of healing, because they come from silence, not reaction. They are not meant to impress or defend. They arise naturally, like the wind moving through trees. Presence does not need morality to act kindly. Its kindness is spontaneous. When the mind is quiet, compassion flows without being commanded. It becomes the natural fragrance of awareness. You no longer calculate what is good or bad. You simply respond from the stillness of clarity. And that response, whatever it is always aligned with truth. This is what it means to live from presence, to let life live itself through you. The breath teaches this perfectly. It gives, it receives, it gives again, without hesitation, without fear, without story. To breathe consciously is to remember that every moment is sacred, not because it is peaceful, but because it is alive. When anger arises, breathe. When sadness visits, breathe. When joy expands, breathe. You will notice the breath does not reject any of it. It moves through pleasure and pain with the same gentle rhythm. So let the breath teach you how to be open without control. Let it remind you that nothing needs to be fixed. The inhale is acceptance. The exhale, release. When you trust this rhythm, you begin to live from the heart, not from anxiety or expectation. Every breath becomes a prayer of surrender, a soft bow to the mystery of being alive, here, now, just as you are. The breath teaches us, no moment needs to be controlled, only lived. When you walk, walk as the breath walks. When you eat, eat as the breath eats. Let every act be joined with awareness, and life becomes meditation without effort. Then, even in the midst of movement, you remain still inside. The outer world changes, but the inner space stays luminous and calm. This is not withdrawal. It is the deepest participation in existence. Because when you live from presence, you are no longer separate from what you do. You are the breath of the universe taking form in this human shape. Each inhale is the cosmos entering you. Each exhale is your offering back to the whole. And in that rhythm, you discover the true meaning of being alive. You were never separate. The breath has always been finding you. From the first cry of birth to the final whisper of death, the breath has carried you through every moment, faithful, unseen, eternal. You may have believed that you were breathing, but in truth, it was life breathing itself into form. This entire journey, from focus to stillness, from self to wisdom, from doing to being, has been a return to what never left. The breath was not a practice. It was the presence of life, calling you home again and again. Every inhale was a beginning. Every exhale, a letting go. And between them, you were already free. As you look back, you can see the path unfolding like a circle, beginning with attention, deepening into awareness, resting in stillness, dissolving into non-self, and awakening as pure knowing. Presence was never something you achieved. It was the one walking with you all along. Through breath, you learned to see clearly. Through stillness, you remembered the vastness. Through letting go, you found the formless heart of love. The breath was never just air. It was light, the luminous thread of consciousness weaving through every heartbeat and every thought. When you surrender to this light, the seeker dissolves and only presence remains, silent, transparent, aware of itself as all things. Now even silence breathes. You can feel the gentle rhythm of the universe, in the pulse beneath your skin, in the sway of trees, in the soft hum of space itself. Nothing is apart. Each form is a gesture of one living breath, each sound a wave within the same infinite ocean. When you rest here, there is nothing left to seek, no future to reach, no past to fix, no self to improve. Only this, a vast intimacy with existence. Presence is not inside you. You are inside presence. And when you finally realize this, peace stops being a goal. It becomes your nature. The breath teaches surrender. It asks for nothing, yet it gives everything. In every inhale, it says, receive. In every exhale, it says, release. When you follow its wisdom, life becomes simple again, a rhythm of giving and letting go, of dying and being born in each moment. This is the secret of freedom, to live as breath lives, without clinging, without resistance. When you are breathed by life itself, you are carried by the same force that moves galaxies and grows flowers. You move in harmony with what is, and in that harmony, you recognize the sacred truth. You were never separate from the whole. The breath has always been your teacher, your prayer, your homecoming. Now let the words fade. Let the thoughts soften. Let the breath find its own rhythm. In the silence that follows, feel the vastness holding you, a golden stillness, as if the universe itself were exhaling peace. Stay there. Breathe there. There is nothing to do, nowhere to go, no one to become. Only this gentle awareness shining quietly within everything. When the final breath of this moment arrives, smile inwardly, because you will know the breath and the breather were never two. Every breath is an invitation to presence, to love, to life itself. Then, pause. Let silence speak for 15 seconds. Only the sound of breathing and the golden space of being remain. If this moment has touched something quiet inside you, let it keep breathing through your life. Gently like this video, so its peace can reach more hearts. Share in the comments. What did you feel in the golden stillness? And if you wish to keep walking this path of presence, subscribe, so each breath becomes a gentle return home. Thank you for breathing here with me. Your presence means more than words can say. May this stillness continue to ripple through your life, softly, quietly, bringing peace where it's needed most. With each breath, may you remember, you are never separate from the light you seek. Thank you for being part of this shared journey of presence.